Bobby Curtola was Canada's first homegrown teen idol. Girls screamed for him. Guys wanted to be him. Fans bought his records in the millions. Disc jockeys couldn't wait to play his latest hit. For more than 5 decades, Bobby has been loved all around the world. And it all started at Grandma's house.
Being of Italian descent, every Sunday we went to Grandma's house, and after dinner the accordion would come out and we'd all be singing all of the songs, all of my growing up years. And in those early years, my mother used to write songs, and my brother and I, Gary and I, used to sing them. I'd hold on to one edge of the fridge door, we'd hold hands in the middle, he'd have the other edge of the fridge door, we'd sing for the company.
Bobby Curtola grew up in the northern Ontario town of Port Arthur, now known as Thunder Bay. He started singing with a local band, and it wasn't long before his career took off like a rocket.
I was a part of the band, and I sang backup for a guy named Brian Merritt. They let me sing a couple of songs. Brian was nice enough to say, listen, when we're doing my thing, it'll be Brian Merritt and the Country Wheels, and when it's you, it'll be Bobby and the Bobcats. It was the same band. So we started to play in the local area, did a local radio show, and the Hurden brothers were my songwriters. They were actually in the process of recording some of their music for posterity. And they approached me to sing on one side of the record. And I couldn't believe that somebody asked me to record in Thunder Bay, of all places, Port Arthur, Fort William in 1959. It was like a dream come true.
How I love you, always will. Please forgive me, say you'll still always let me walk along, hand in hand with you.
In 1960, Bobby's first record, Hand in Hand with You, written and produced by brothers Basil and Dyer Heard On, was released. It was an instant smash, and Bobby was well on his way to fame, fortune, and pumping gas.
I used to work at my dad's service station, and I loved cars. I mean, I think it kept me out of trouble, But I'd be pumping gas, and they'd be playing the records, and it was great because my managers tried to keep the publicity out of my hometown because it was sort of in a locked area up there in northern Ontario. And I used to go back to school, and my friends would play the records at the local hangout. And in Thunder Bay, Port Arthur, was Pharaoh's Restaurant. It was just like Happy Days, with the jukebox and the booths, and they go play some of my songs and tease me and get me to sing it or say, that was not as good as the last one, and it was really special growing up. My success started in Canada, and I was exported to America and all of those other places because of my Canadian success. And it was a little different because, we were dreaming about making records, and it happened.
Once Curtola became successful, the Heard On brothers tore up his original contract and made him a partner in everything.
I had 1/3 of the record publishing, 1/3 of the touring. I had 1/3 of the record company. So I was a partner, and they were good to me. They were like family. The Hurden brothers, for me, with my voice and the style, I sort of fit their genre of writing, and you gotta have the right singer, but it's always about the song. And we just clicked wonderfully together. And when they passed away, it sort of, the writing side dried up for me a little bit. It was hard for me to find the next thing.
Recording studios and session musicians were rare in Canada during the early 1960s, so the Heard On brothers took Bobby to Nashville to record, using the same studio and many of the same musicians as Elvis Presley.
I tell everybody the vibrato in my voice back then was fear. When we started to record, it went from mono to 2-track, and now we're in Nashville at the B Studio. Elvis has got the night sessions. I can't get the night sessions, so when he was in town recording, I only got his guys, because most of them, they all played on our stuff too. That's why the record sold.
Fortune teller.
1962's Fortune Teller was Bobby Curtola's most successful international hit. But initially, Bobby wasn't totally happy with the recording.
I wanted to put the Tell Me, Tell Me, Tell Me on the bridge. And they wouldn't let me do it in Nashville because the session was over. They didn't want to. So we had driven down to Nashville, and we're on our way back to Thunder Bay. And I was on them for the whole trip, right? So they finally gave in. They said, okay. So we drove into Minneapolis, looked in the phone book, found the studio, and we went in and they let me do the overdub.
Tell me, tell me, tell me, will we meet?
It was the biggest selling record we ever had.
As Curtola became more successful in the U.S., he was invited to join a Dick Clark tour, along with stars Roy Orbison and Brenda Lee. Even though the artists all traveled together in one bus, Bobby says he loved every minute.
It was wonderful. Are you kidding? And what was interesting, because depending on where your song was on the chart, that's how you went on in the show. As fortune teller was out in the United States and we were on the tour, it was interesting how I started to move up, in the show. It was a thrill to be with everybody. It was a different time. There was a camaraderie with all of the entertainers where everybody wanted to help each other. It was a great time.
The success of Fortune Teller took Bobby all over the world. On a trip to England, he appeared on the hit TV show Thank Your Lucky Stars. Bobby almost didn't make it out alive.
We were on with our song and Fortune Teller was on at the time, so I'm on the show and I'm meeting all of these famous English stars, and it was a thrill. So the kids are outside the studio at the end of the show and they're screaming and we're waiting to see who they were waiting for. Everybody leaves. I'll never forget, my manager Basil was on tour with me. Everybody had left and they were still there. They were waiting for us. He looked at me, I looked at him. We said, how are we going to get out of here? So now the security's taking us through the back lot. Now this big limo's sneaking around the side to the side gate. He's over there, he goes like this. Nobody's on the street, so they open the side gate to let me out. We only got to the sidewalk. And all the kids, it was amazing. Now my manager's got me from behind, he's got me under him, he's dragging me with his hands locked like this through the crowd into this limo. And we're worried about the paint, and there's girls in the car. It was insane.
In 1964, Coca-Cola signed Bobby to an exclusive contract as a spokesman and goodwill ambassador. It was a successful relationship that lasted for years.
Who thought I'd end up doing Coca-Cola commercials? That was a shock for me. That really was a big success. We figured Curtola, Coca-Cola, and I was the first guy to make a commercial sound like a top 40 record in the world. Today, I still have fans come to the shows with a Coke bottle. Because I used to give the 6-packs away on the show. I'd do the commercial and Coke would give me as much Coke as I wanted to give away. And it was like a hit record for me.
Bobby's good fortune continued when the Hughes Hotel chain hired him for a gig in Las Vegas.
So I got a 2-week booking, I got a standing ovation every show for 2 weeks. I started in the Gold Cup Lounge where Sinatra started. Walter Kane gave us a multi-million-dollar contract. He never forgot me. I played for 30 years for Hughes, all those hotels.
Bobby Curtola reached for the stars and became one. He's had a lifelong career filled with more than a dozen gold records and a dozen gold albums, network TV shows, sold-out tours, and adoring fans. He's a businessman. He's supported charities around the world. He's been showered with awards and honors, a star on the Italian Walk of Fame in Toronto, and a Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012.
I look back on my life, it's like a dream. And what's interesting is when things are successful, everything you do works. So what happens is this snowball just keeps getting bigger, and all you have to do is your part. The public don't see you anymore, they see it. And the it, they put Bobby Curtola's name on it. You can never own Mount Everest. I feel very fortunate to be one of the many that got to climb it, and I saw that view. And when I turned around to say to everybody, look at there was another guy saying, hi, Bobby. And it was my time to go back down the hill. But it's really the process, which is how I got there. Music, music.